a much better team than we came up and represented ourselves.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of the Sac City Podcast. I am your host, the one and only Vinny Milani, joined as always by my best friend, Aaron the Mukesiah Mukes. And below us, we have your boy, AJ Johnson. It's a beautiful April 11th evening here in the city. Episode 17 is about to kick off. We are covering all of the AFC West draft needs, including the Chiefs, the Chargers. This is really all the division that has been red hot all offseason long. We're going to be talking about what these teams need in the draft in just a little bit. Aaron, how goes it?
It goes another week, Monday. I've been watching some baseball all day, like AJ mentioned pre-show. Not a lot of basketball on. Watching some NFL news and nugs, as they would say on the Sac City Podcast.
I've heard those guys before.
I'm ready, man. A great weekend of sports this past weekend. UFC, the Masters was on. But I'm ready to kind of get back into the draft talk. We're 17 days away, I believe it is. And today is the AFC West. Like you said, it's been the wild, wild West all offseason. So I'm ready to tell people who their team has to draft. It's must draft day.
It's must draft here. It is must draft. AJ, I will go to you in just a second, but actually I won't because you brought up, Aaron, the weekend, and I want to start off with this and just get this and talk about this before we move on to pay respects and discuss the tragic death of former quarterback Dwayne Haskins. He has passed away at the age of 24. He was struck by a dump truck on Interstate 595 down in South Florida earlier on in this weekend. And this was it came as a surprise to a lot of us. He was a very young kid, and you never know when life is going to just leave like that. And I know there was all the talks and everything going on about Dwayne Haskins as a person. And there really is one quote that summed it up the best from Mike Tomlin, who really hasn't even had that much time with him, but saw the true character of Dwayne Haskins. He said, quote, "He quickly became part of our Steelers family upon his arrival in Pittsburgh and was one of our hardest workers, both on field and in our community. Dwayne was a great teammate, but even more so a tremendous friend to so many. I'm truly heartbroken." This is so true about who Dwayne Haskins was from what everyone has really said around the sports world. And it's very tragic that we have lost such a young, promising person, not even just don't even call him just a quarterback. This is a person that we have now lost so early at the age of 24. Gentlemen, I will let this, I'll give it up to you guys. Aaron, start off with you. What are your thoughts here?
First of all, you mentioned shocking, like surprised. This is something you just don't expect from a 24-year-old young man, right? Who's in the prime of his life, playing in the NFL, living his dream. And so, waking up on, I believe it was Saturday, just in shock of like, wait, what's going on? What happened? And this is something we see in sports. We see when, celebrities or people that are in the public eye, it happens. We're always shocked by it. And this is a player that, as much negative light that was shed on him as an NFL player, he was a first-round draft pick. He was third in the Heisman voting as a sophomore in 2018. I remember that season very vividly. He threw for almost 5,000 yards, 50 touchdowns, and 8 picks with 70% completion at Ohio State. And then he had that big game in the Rose Bowl against Washington in his final game at Ohio State. And again, you're talking about a guy that's more than just a football player, despite maybe not even being given his opportunities in the NFL after, switching teams short into his career. I think it's just important that we remember, like I said, he has a family. He is a young man who achieved so much in his life in the short 24 years. And we forget how we talk about these NFL players as failures or successes. These are NFL players. These are the best 1,500 football players in the world, despite how they measure up against their counterparts. And, it's sad that we have to say goodbye at such a young age, and who knows what he would have been able to accomplish in the right circumstances, right? We always talk about opportunity and where we flourish, where those opportunities may come. And he might have gotten a chance in Pittsburgh. Who knows what happens with Mitchell Trubisky and how that chance is, kind of taken away. So it's very sad. We're obviously mourning the loss of him, and, shout out to his family, and our thoughts and prayers are with him and his family and his friends and his teammates, and obviously the Steelers, the Washington organization, as well as Ohio State.
Yeah, I think a lot of the NFL players around the league did a fantastic job of summing up for the general public that guy Dwayne Haskins was, because as we know, there are NFL fans who forget the line of being an NFL fan, a person, and everyone could be focused for the last 2 or 3 years, lasting memories of Haskins in Washington. For me, my lasting memory of Dwayne Haskins in Washington is that moment when they were supposed to be on the field and he's out there taking photos with the fans and everything. And sure, you're supposed to be on the field. I get it. But think about that moment. He's there smiling and living it up and enjoying it. And you can see the smile. You can see it being infectious. You can see that the crowd and the fandom would literally, they would pull to Dwayne Haskins if he was to get it together and start being a better player as the years went along in Washington. Sadly, he wasn't given that chance. But from the moment he walked into Pittsburgh, from everything I've heard, he was trending in the right direction. He was working hard. He was being a team player to everybody around him. I was excited for the future. We know this guy was a player, but we've recently all got to find out the type of person he was. And honestly, that makes me a lot more excited. Just being a human, to get that message Saturday morning to hear that he passed away, not only was it shocking, you immediately felt the sadness in it, not even knowing the guy, but just knowing, for me, 2-3 hours down the road, this man's life has been taken away at the young age of 24. So condolences to his family, his friends, the NFL. They did lose a brother. No matter what they thought of him and how young he was in the league, he's no longer with them. But I hope the Steelers, Washington, and everyone else will remember him the right way in this upcoming season.
Very easy guy to root for, especially later on in his career. And we definitely send our thoughts and prayers out to all the friends and family associated with Dwayne Haskins. And now, if you guys don't mind, I know you guys don't mind. I don't know why I asked you that. We will take a moment of silence in honor of Dwayne Haskins. All righty, gentlemen. Now we move on to the rest of the show, because the show must go on. And we had other news that happened earlier on this weekend. It was the Baltimore Ravens, fellow team in the AFC North. The Baltimore Ravens have re-signed Calais Campbell. The 6-time Pro Bowler is back in Baltimore on a 2-year, $12.5 million deal that basically, I feel like, sets up Calais Campbell to retire a Baltimore Raven. This guy is a huge leader on this Ravens defense. Has been one of the best players, one of the best human beings inside the NFL. He's one of 4 NFL defenders since 2000 to record at least 700 tackles and 85 sacks. This man is an absolute beast on the field and a great person off the field. This is a big move for the Baltimore Ravens. I feel like this is a great piece to bring back. AJ, what are your thoughts on the re-signing of big Calais Campbell?
Yeah, I agree. Great move. I'm happy they were able to bring him back. We talked a little bit about what losing him might mean, and we all do remember him as one of those guys who could get to the quarterback. But even though that's still a part of his game, it's not the sole purpose of his game anymore. He's been more of a run stopper in the last couple of seasons, not really getting the sacks or the tackles for losses you expect from a Calais Campbell. But as a big veteran presence in that locker room, showing the guys who are coming up after him how to be a solid defensive player and what it means. I know he's only been in Baltimore for 2 years, but you can tell a guy like Calais Campbell embodies what it means to be a defensive player on the Baltimore Ravens side. So having him for another 2 years, and the reason he comes back after contemplating retirement, just watching what the Rams are able to do with that defense, knowing they have a good defense of their own, when they're healthy. Taking those last 2 chances at a chip, I think that's a really good move by him. And I'm happy they were able to get him back. It allows them to focus on some other parts of the defense that they're going to need to in this draft and whatever's left in the free agency period. So about it.
Yeah, I think this signing is about more than the production you're getting on the field. Vinny, you mentioned all the stats and the 93.5 sacks in his career, first team All-Pro, 6-time Pro Bowler, those kind of things. But for me, his time in Arizona, Jacksonville, and now Baltimore, it's about what he brings to a locker room, his leadership ability in that locker room, the kind of infectious personality that he has. If you're familiar with Calais Campbell and you've watched interviews he's done, he is just a guy that people gravitate towards. And I think that's what the Baltimore culture is about. That's what Harbaugh is about. And I think this is just another example of them saying, hey, look, this leadership is worth, $6.5 million a year or whatever it is, because maybe the production isn't what it used to be. But this is a guy that is respected by his peers, by his teammates. He's been named to the NFL top 100 6 times, and we all know that's only been in existence for like the past 7-8 years. The fact of the matter is he's respected in that locker room, and I think that's what this move is about. This is about a guy staying on a team that has a huge – this is a huge existence in Baltimore's culture. It's about bringing in guys like the Ray Lewises, the Ed Reeds, the Calais Campbells, and they want those type of people in their locker room. And I think this is an example of that. He's one of my favorite players to watch. And again, I love listening to his interviews and how infectious he is. And, good for Baltimore. They needed help on the defensive line. So it's not the void of, hey, it's just a piece for the locker room. They do need help there. And, he can get after the quarterback a little bit. He can play on some on third downs. And, obviously he's not going to be that snap guy that he's used to being, but he can play sparingly, be effective when he's in there, and then obviously lead that team. So good for Baltimore.
Yep. It definitely adds to much needed defense that really needs those edge rushers. We're going to cover the Baltimore Ravens and the rest of the AFC North next Monday, live right here on the Sac City Podcast on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Next Monday. Why are you looking at me like that? Why are you looking at me like that?
We've already done the North.
The AFC North.
Oh, shit, we did. Oh, stupid. Hey, if you did not catch our episode covering the Baltimore Ravens draft needs, it is now available live on YouTube and on all podcasting platforms. Whoopsies. All right, let's move on here. We are going to be covering the AFC West. I know that is correct because it's in the doc and I'm looking right at it. We're going to be covering the AFC West in just a few moments. But AJ, load up those golden pipes that you have. I know it's beautiful. You have a voice of an angel. It's not the smoothest voice in sportscasting, but it's the voice of an angel. And please tell the beautiful people at home where they can follow us at.
Well, Vinny, I will bless you all with this heavenly voice to tell everybody about Sac City Pod and where you can go on your social media platforms to find them. If you're a Facebooker, we appreciate it. If you're an Instagrammer, we love it. If you one of them Twitter heads, we about it. We know you're all on YouTube, and we know everybody is on the TikTok trends. So head over to Sac City Pod at every single one of those social media platforms and follow at Sac City Pod. You got to hit those likes. You got to hit those loves. You got to share it. Sac City Pod is here every damn day, and I won't say here to stay. It's just, that's it's in the past. We're gonna move forward.
Hey, I got two things to say before we get into our AFC West talk. Proud of you. Congratulations to AJ for getting onto the TikTok grind. He made his first TikTok video.
Oh yeah.
And it was beautiful. It was beautiful, and we this guy is about to be TikTok famous one of these days. I also really wanted to discuss here real quick before we get into everything. Is that a coconut with an FSU helmet on behind it?
It's a football, bro. Like, what's wrong with you? It
looks like a coconut.
Got me a little FSU football, and
dude still got the price tag on it.
Yeah, I did. I haven't taken off yet because I just brought it in. It's okay, but I'm holding the price tag. Y'all don't even know how much I be spending on my memorabilia. But I needed to. I got the nice little professional screen behind me, but I gotta get my desk game up. And so once I change studios and everything, I'm thinking about being able to put the cameras and everything further away so we can see more of my desk. So I'm collecting things for the desk, things for the possible wall that may go behind me, and then I can put the green screen over said wall when I need it in the future. So
you won't ever need it again. You won't ever need it again. I promise. You won't ever need it again.
Never. I was thinking about breaking mine out just because mine's just folded up in a closet somewhere now.
Just getting dust.
I'll
dusty.
I'll find a reason to use it.
Nope.
We got videos that I might want to do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
AJ always trying to go against the grain, always trying to be different. We try to tell him. We try to tell him what it is, and he always trying to tell us what it ain't.
Hey,
listen, I'm like that squirrel in Ice Age. Everybody taking their line that way, and I'm just, zooming off to the other side.
That's why
Didn't he die?
Always getting blown up. Yeah, doesn't he get blown up like every 2 minutes?
And he still survives. I'm saying, Mystical and Silk the Shocker. We don't die, we multiply.
Mr. Survivor. All right. Let's get in. We're going to get into our AFC West. I want to give a special shout out to everybody in the chat, everyone watching live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Roku TV, whichever platform you're watching or listening to us on. We appreciate you guys. If you have not seen it already, we have made our special draft day announcement where we want you, the fans, to make your pick for your team, because really, it's all about you here in the city. We are accepting submissions now for our draft special where you can be a part of it live. All you have to do is record yourself filming a 1-minute video telling us who your team should be selecting with their first pick. If your team doesn't have a first-round pick, it's okay. Record it anyways. Send it to us. Let us know who they should pick and why, and it will be featured live on the show during our Sac City draft special beginning on Thursday, April 28th. You're not going to want to miss it, live at 8 p.m. Eastern time. All right.
That was beautiful, Vinny. That was a great job of plugging the show, but I don't think you sold it enough. For the people that weren't in our draft coverage last year, you missed out. I mean, we're not just talking the draft. We are literally making these picks live with you. We are interacting with you as the draft happens. It's like a big ass watch party. We're all drinking, well, except for Vinny because he doesn't drink, but we're drinking. We're having a good time. It's kicked back. We have conversation. We watch Dylan react to bad picks. It's a lot of fun. You're not going to want to miss it. You can mute ESPN. You can turn on ESPN to watch it or whatever, but mute them, turn on us, have a good time, stay in the chat.
Not lying.
It's
well, that's people did know last year.
That's the thing. We are not trying to take you away from watching the draft, because obviously you have to watch the draft, but watch it with friends. Don't watch it alone. Watch it with us in the city and everybody else. We have a great time. All of the fans come on in and watch with us, and we talk in the chat. It was a great time. Bailey was in here last year. He enjoyed it. We put in a lot of time and a lot of coverage into our draft special. I believe last year we spent over 20 plus hours covering the draft live and also doing all of our episodes, and it was a lot of fun, and we're doing it again this year, so you're not going to want to miss out on Thursday, April 28th. But please submit those videos. The cutoff day, the deadline for that is April 26th on Tuesday. So once midnight strikes on that Tuesday evening, it will be over, or that Wednesday evening, I guess it would be. It will be over. Please put your videos in and have some fun with us. Yeah. Let's get into this AFC West here, and we start things off with the Kansas City Chiefs. They pick at 29 and 30th after the big Tyreek Hill trade. They need a wide receiver, an edge rusher, a defensive tackle. AJ, I'll let you start things off here, good sir. Who do the Kansas City Chiefs need to go after? Who's a must-have player for the Kansas City Chiefs in this upcoming draft that we will be covering live? Are you good now? I'm trying to stall here. Okay, you're good. Got it.
I was like, I wanted to do something, and then you're like, hey, it's awesome. It's cool. It's great. I'm here. I'm ready to go. So
great.
This is a good spot. As it sits now, the Kansas City Chiefs have back-to-back picks. I think there are one or two things they should do here in this spot. I think they need to go with my pick, which I'll tell you in a second, or I think they should trade out of one of these spots and move just a little bit back to get some more draft capital up front, as well as possibly taking some people early in the second round. So I do have them selecting one of these picks. Are you okay? Are you okay?
I don't know, man. Hold on. I think we need to stop. I think I need to stop it here. I think I need to stop you here. Because before the show, and it's not because before everything went down, I was like, the Chiefs need to trade up. And I was like, okay, well, our draft rules and the way we're doing this is we're not doing trades and stuff. But I want to get into this discussion real quick on why you think they need to trade down, because I thought they should package both their first round picks and trade up for a cornerback. But you say they need to trade down.
Okay, so I'm not opposed to that. What I'm operating with here is that they miss out on it. That somebody beats them to the punch, and then it's harder to find somebody to move up to. Because the target, from what I'm hearing, is the Los Angeles Chargers. That's the trade bait spot for everyone, apparently. Everyone's looking at this 17 like that's the best spot as of now, not counting somebody who may want to go up and reach for a QB. So I'm just Go ahead.
Go ahead, finish. I'll go ahead.
I'm not saying they shouldn't trade up. I'm not saying they can't trade up. I was operating as if they didn't have that opportunity. We got to this 29 pick where my guy is going. And at that point, if they're making that pick and still have the 30th, well, then you give it up to somebody right on the outside that may be trying to beat the Lions to get one of those quarterbacks on the back end with the 5th year option. So it's not that I don't think they could or should trade up. The way I just planned it out, that was the way I kind of operated on it.
And to me, I think that they should package both their first round picks and maybe a late round pick, a 6th or whatever, to trade up with maybe a team like the Washington Commanders, who just wasted draft capital on trading for a player like Carson Wentz. You collect a little bit more picks. You're able to build a little bit more around Carson Wentz after the picks you've traded for a guy like Carson Wentz. And the Chiefs, again, draft picks aren't important if you're a team that's right on the cusp of winning that Super Bowl. So package those 2 picks. And I originally, before we were going through all this and I thought about everything, I said the Chiefs should trade up for a guy like Andrew Booth, the cornerback from the Clemson Tigers, if Stingley and if Sauce Gardner are gone. But that was just me. We're not playing that game. Aaron, you have looked confuzzled, frufruzzled, preposterous, whatever made up word I can come up with to describe your feelings right now.
Well, I mean, you want to trade up. AJ wants to trade back. The Chiefs, first of all, just acquired this pick. They have 8 picks in the first 4 rounds. This is a team that is in need of a lot of pieces. It's not just, we can go trade up and get a corner and we're set to go. Like, they have other needs on that defensive side of the football. I really don't see them moving up, especially all the way up to 11. I think that's going to cost more than just that extra first round pick. I think that's a lot.
I don't know.
To move up that far.
If you look
up that far. And is Andrew Booth really a lockdown corner? Are we sure that he's going to be a stud in this draft? That, to me, that's a move that you're not making from where they're at right now.
You sit back and wait for Andrew Booth.
They moved up to 11 or 12 or 10 or whatever it was to get Patrick Mahomes. Remember that, okay? Like, to move up to get Andrew Booth, who I'm not saying he's not good, but there's no sure guarantee that guy's going to be a shutdown corner. And I think when you look at their depth chart, they have a good amount of veterans there. L'Jarius Sneed, Rashad Fenton, guys that have played, and then you get maybe a flyer in DeAndre Baker who didn't work out in his first stop, and now you can bring him in there where he did play a little bit. I don't think necessarily you have to move all the way up to 11. I think that's an extreme move. Trading back, I don't think they need to do it either because of the fact that they have so many picks already, unless you're talking about future picks. Now, if they want to get rid of one of those firsts and acquire a first the following year, or a second round pick and maybe another 3rd round pick the following year, then maybe. But I kind of think KC stays pat in the first round. I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of wiggle room there. And I think there's some guys right where they're at that are some interesting names. And we'll get into some of those names in the next few minutes.
Okay. So I just, before you go here, I want to let everyone know that this video is clipped on YouTube perfectly for you Chiefs fans to watch. Let us know in the comments what you guys think. Should they trade up? Should they trade back? Should they stay put? Who should they take? Comment below and make sure you subscribe to this YouTube video. Lots more Chiefs content and so much more NFL content throughout the Sack City pod. AJ, who do the Chiefs need to target in this draft?
All right. So, as I mentioned, I'm going with a DB, and we're looking at round 1, pick 29. It's the Chiefs. We don't care about what they're going to do late right now. We want to hear about that hype pick that they got. And for my hype pick, I am taking Daxton Hill out of Michigan, the safety. So, this guy, I heard a lot about him climbing. You know, when he started, they had him a little lower. But now I'm thinking it's almost a surefire thing that he's going to come off in the first round. This guy gets it. Elite speed. He can accelerate in a hurry. He's one of the best blitzers I've seen from the safety and the defensive back position in this draft so far. And that's not to, take away from anybody else. Just what I've seen, I've been very impressed with. He's got great ball skills. He comes in hot as a tackler, as you can see. And the best part about this is Michigan's been doing this for a while, having these safeties that kind of hybrid. You all remember the Jabril Peppers of the world, the Jordan Lewises of the world, these guys that can do a little bit of both. And Daxton Hill's the best part of that. What I like about him to the Chiefs is whatever they figure out with Tyrann Mathieu, let's say Tyrann Mathieu ends up moving on. Well, now you got a guy who can come in at safety, and no, he may not be Tyrann Mathieu year one, but he's a guy that you can have a lot of confidence in that he can become very, very solid and very, very good for that back end. And if Tyrann Mathieu does stay, he's played a lot of slot cornerback at Michigan. He's played on the outside a little bit. He can be a guy you can scheme around in that secondary. So I really like this pick for them. I think it gets them somewhere where they're not waiting till week 7 and 8 to be good on the back end of the defense. They can start that in the earlier part of the season and set themselves up much better starting this year, 2022.
I like that pick a lot. I like the position pick there. I'm higher on other cornerbacks than your guy, but I do like that pick. I do think cornerback is the pick, or defense is the pick for the Chiefs at 30 and 29. I will go next here, Aaron. Are you?
I hate the pick. I hate the pick. First of all, the only thing that I will say, there's one good thing I like about the pick is he fits the scheme of Steve Spagnuolo, because he's basically a cover 1 type guy, a cover 3 type guy. He's going to play man. He's really, really tough in man. But this is a guy that he's smaller. He's not going to be really good around the line of scrimmage, even with his tough. And you mentioned like his willingness to get in there and tackle and blitz, and he's really, really good at it. But the NFL, you're playing against bigger dudes, and this guy's just not big enough for me to play him around the line of scrimmage, which means you're playing him in the back end, who you just got Justin Reed, who's really good on the back end. So I'm not really sure they fit well together. And then you still have their current other safety now in Juan Thornhill, who has played in that system and has some experience there. I don't love the player. I like the position, but I don't love the player and his fit, just with, again, how small he is. I worry about that size and what he's going to be asked to do on that defense. Because if he's taking over that Tyrann Mathieu play around the line of scrimmage and be all over the field type role, he has the toughness. I don't know if he can withstand the physicality of that style of play. So I'm not in love with that part of it.
Right. I mean, and I would imagine that any of these guys coming in at 6 foot 191 plans on packing on as many pounds as they can before the draft. He's one of those guys to me, though, that has been small his entire life and has been able to find a way to succeed. So, like, the way that he comes downhill, the speed, the aggressiveness, his technique when he tackles, the fact he doesn't let people slip out, those are the things that I think will allow him to still be small and still make plays. I don't think he's going to be the best guy out of this draft from this position or anything, or at least
like I'd much rather have
in year 3 or 4.
I'd much rather have Lewis seen here, like than a Daxton Hill. And to be honest, I think you're going to start to. I think a lot of these safeties end up falling. I have Daxton Hill right now going at the beginning of the 3rd round. Like that's how far down. And I know he was a slow starter. I know he started like in the mid 3rd round, and he's been moving up boards because all the measurements and things like that happen, right? We start to get to know these players more, but he's still at the beginning of the 3rd round for me. I like it. I like his speed. He's very aware. He's rangy. And again, I like his toughness. I worry about his size. And in the NFL, I worry about these teams saying, he's too small, that we're not sure enough, and that he continues to drop. And you see somebody in the 3rd round get a steal because of a player like that. That's my take right now. But again, he has the ability, right? He has the ability. I just worry about that size. Yeah. My player comp for him, by the way, is MJ Stewart, who was picked out of North Carolina. He was picked in the 2nd round. Similar build. He's played with the Browns the past couple of years. He's been okay, but hasn't kind of latched on. I think he can be better than that, but I do worry about the size, especially in the NFL with how physical it is, obviously.
Yeah, I like the cornerback pick. I would have went with what our boy kneecap Jeremy B over here in the chat said. I am loving the tape more and more that I see of Kier Elam, the cornerback from Florida. I think he does drop to that spot. I would rather him at 29, but at 30, I will take I will take the guy that we talked a lot about on Friday's show. And if you missed it, please head on over to YouTube or any podcasting platform. It is there. We ranked the top 10 edge rushers in this draft. And I think the Kansas City Chiefs desperately need to address their pass rush and take this man, David Ojabo from Michigan. This guy, we talk about him potentially falling in this draft. Well, if you're Kansas City, do not let this man fall. He could still play during the season. And we've already talked a whole lot about what Ojabo brings. He obviously is a very athletic defensive end, 11 sacks at Michigan this past season. He brings speed, intensity. He's great. But Kansas City desperately needs a pass rush. You might be losing Melvin Ingram. They haven't re-signed him. Who knows if he's coming back or not. You ranked 30th in the NFL last season in sacks. This is a team that desperately needs a pass rush. Sorry, 29th in the league last year in sacks. This team desperately needs a pass rush, so they need to go out and get it. You got the extra picks now for what you traded up for Tyreek Hill for. Now go get your pass rush, because you are going up against a team in a division where you look everywhere else. I would say Kansas City has the worst pass rush out of all the teams in the AFC West, right there with Denver. I would say both Denver and Kansas City might be jostling for position for the worst pass rush in the AFC West, right? That's fair. Go get you a David Ojabo. Fix that problem.
My only worry is you're not technically fixing that problem. And if they're as bad as you say, why would they not attack that now? I get how good David Ojabo is going to be, but can they really, if they need it that bad, can they really afford to wait on that when they can get other positions that can help them at this point in time? We said it on Friday, David Ojabo is going to be elite. But if you need edge rush that bad, are you going to get a guy that might make it back in time for the playoffs or that you can't use till next year? Or are you going to get a defensive back or something that can help you day one?
Well, his earliest that he can come back is they say he's 6 months is the earliest that man can come back. So, I mean, it's not crazy that
I love
to say
the
that
pick.
he's gonna...
I love the pick. I think if every team in the first round passes on David Ojabo, they made a mistake. I'm going to keep saying it. This dude is diverse in his pass rush, and he's so raw still. Like, he is just right now, go on the field and say, go get the quarterback. He's only played 20 games. Obviously, that's a concern for most people, right, is the lack of experience. And then against the run, he still has some play recognition issue type stuff. But 11 sacks last year, 5.5 forced fumbles, and only a one-year starter. He tore his Achilles, so everybody's worried about that injury. Again, I just saw what Cam Akers did. If I'm Kansas City, I look at him and I say, this is a perfect time to get a pass rusher that I believe should have been top 10. I believe he should be top 10 in this draft, and you can get him, and you're Kansas City. So you're probably going to win enough games. You probably need him to step in week one and say, go do something. You can wait till middle of the season, start him out on the PUB list, and then say, okay, come in, and all you have to do, I'm asking you to do one job your rookie year. Just go get the quarterback, right? We'll put you in on third downs. You don't have to play a whole lot, but this is, to me, I loved this pick. This is who I almost went, but I decided not to. And
just for Chiefs fans to feel okay with this pick, if everyone's might be hating me for it, this man had a higher pass rush win percentage than Jermaine Johnson, who is arguably someone who's going to be picked in the middle of the first round, and Trayvon Walker, who is now being talked about as the number 1 overall pick. So David Ojabo last year had a better win percentage on pass rushing than the first overall pick potentially, and someone who's going to be roughly in the teens. So if
there's
you can get
people
them,
that say he's going to be better than Aiden Hutchinson, just pure pass rushing, not as an overall player, but as a pass rusher. I'll tell you right now, I love to do player comps. You asked me the other day who my player comp was for him, and I didn't have an answer because I hadn't really thought about it. It's Robert Quinn. And Robert Quinn can get to the quarterback. Robert Quinn's not great against the run. Robert Quinn is not somebody you look at as like, oh, this is like a guy that is known as being some Hall of Famer. But you go look at Robert Quinn's pass rush and his production as a pass rusher, it is elite. And I think that's the kind of player that you're going to get from David Ojabo.
You can't let him fall. If you're the Chiefs, you cannot let him fall. But Aaron,
McShay has him right now in the second round. I don't agree. But it was just something I noted today.
And that's
very
what I'm
fair
saying.
For those teams that are worried about that injury, right? Because that's what it is. But that speaks to how good he is. That you're still projected in the second round and you tore your Achilles. Like, you know what I mean? That's the reason you fall that far. And like I said, at Kansas City with 2 picks in the first round, why not go get him there? You still have another pick, the very next pick.
Yep. And where would you have the Chiefs going, Aaron?
So I didn't address the first round. I let you guys kind of take over for the first round. I'm more of I want to do a later round guy. I want to talk about a guy in round 2 who comes from your school. Yeah, whatever. Roll Tide. For me, it's Christian Harris, linebacker out of Alabama. Again, Christian Harris, you're talking about a guy that's 6'2", 226 with speed, can play tight to the defensive line, and he doesn't get caught up in those big offensive lineman blocks. He knows how to use his length and physicality to get off of them. He plays too high at times. He's a little bit high, so guys can get to him, but he struggles against pulling linemen. So this is a guy you want to get in space, right? A guy with 80 tackles, 11 and a half tackles for loss. He knows how to get through the line of scrimmage, and when he's in space, he can do damage. So you let him be free. You get some defensive linemen that are big in front of him, like a Chris Jones, and who takes up 2 or 3 blockers. And this guy is going to come downhill. He's going to make tackles, and he's going to feel comfortable doing it. I like Christian Harris a lot. As AJ spoke to about Hill moving up, I think this is another guy that's moving up on guys' boards, and I really like what I see. I think Kansas City needs help at the linebacker position. You're talking about they lost Anthony Hitchens. There's nobody. They're Willie Gay and Nick Bolton, and that's it. You look beyond that, there's really nobody. And we saw the impact Nick Bolton had. If you can line this guy up with a Nick Bolton, that could be huge. So, yeah, give me some Christian Harris.
Yeah, I like that pick. I like obviously. Well, you know how I like Christian Harris. So.
I liked him to compare him to DeAndre Levy. I don't know if you guys remember DeAndre Levy out of Wisconsin, played for Detroit for like 8 seasons. He's that type of player with much more upside.
Really good player. Deep.
I told you I like player comps.
It's a good stock, you know, like that.
Yeah.
That's the big thing. From a good school to a good NFL team, you could do wonders for him. So I'm a fan.
I think that there's something that we have to talk about here, though, before we move on to our next team about the Chiefs. In order, I specifically did this in our doc, that AJ had the 29th pick, and I was okay with that, and then moved to the 30th pick with Ojabo, and then you took a linebacker with that second-round pick. None of us, if the Chiefs were to do what we just did, they did not take a wide receiver with their first 3 picks, and now Chiefs fans might be questioning this. What would you say to that?
Round, didn't he? Oh, you did.
No, he went second round. Aaron went second round. So first 3 picks, no wide receiver after trading Tyreek Hill and getting a bunch of picks. What do you have to say about that, Aaron? Or okay, just who cares? Okay.
I mean, who cares? Like, you signed Marquez Valdez-Scantling. You signed Juju Smith-Schuster. You're returning a Mecole Hardman, and you have Travis Kelce. I mean, that's
and you have Patrick Mahomes throwing those guys the ball, so that automatically upgrades everybody.
Specifically talking about the position, the fact of the matter is they can still take a flyer on a receiver late. Like I mentioned, they have 8 picks in the first four rounds. So 3rd, 4th round, there's some other guys they might be able to fill in there. But if you're not getting one of the top 5 guys, in the wide receiver position, anyways, there is a bit of a drop off. And I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't think any of those guys, the top 5, are going to be available when Kansas City comes to pick at 28 and 20 or 29 and 30. I don't. I think those receivers are going to go early, and then you have kind of a drop off. So I think there's time for them. I don't think Kansas City's a team that needs that. Like, I think Patrick Mahomes will make them be whatever he needs them to be.
So I've heard a lot about Christian Watson here, and he's climbing up boards and whatnot. I don't need to go into that. But if you remember when we were talking about setting the dock up and everything, I told Aaron to wait on my Kansas City. I was still going in. I had Sky Moore here out of Western Michigan at first. He's another guy that's been climbing up, and people are liking what he's doing. And when I'm just sitting there watching him, not that he's a bad receiver, he's probably going to make some team in the second round really happy. I just didn't really feel like in the first round that there was a need for them to go grab a wide receiver, because Marquez Valdez-Scantling had Aaron Rodgers, but Aaron Rodgers was married to Devontae Adams. It was very hard for him to look away from him, and even when he did, it was Allen Lazard. Juju Smith-Schuster, when he's not injured, he's a good receiver. Say what you want about the guy mentally, maturity-wise, he's a good receiver. And then we know that they love Mecole Hardman. He just needed some opportunity. Maybe now him being in that speed slot will give him a couple more opportunities. So I think they can wait. They take one of those picks in the second round for a wide receiver, but I don't think it's something they have to address in the first round.
I agree. So there you go, Chiefs fans. There's the players that you, the fans, the Chiefs, should be going after in this draft. Let's move on to the team that lost to the Cincinnati Bengals in the beginning of the playoffs this past year. The Las Vegas Raiders. They need offensive line, linebacker, a defensive tackle. They went out and acquired Davante Adams. Gave up a whole lot for Davante Adams, and their first pick falls with the pick number 86. Aaron, I'll let you start this one off.
Oh, I wasn't ready.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That's not everyone.
You made me move. You hold on. All right. So to me, we've talked obviously a lot about the Raiders this offseason, the things they need to do. I think I know why you made me go first, because you really like this pick here.
I honestly forgot who your pick was, to be completely honest. Oh yeah, there you go. Oh, I see it. All right, let's go.
Yeah,
CP3.
exactly. So obviously the Raiders don't have any picks really high because of the trading for Davante Adams. They gave up a lot, but we saw what they did in signing Chandler Jones. They could use some DB help. We've talked about that. I went on the other side of the ball. I went on the offensive line. We talked about them getting rid of their offensive lineman all of last year. I think they can use some additional depth there. We saw the first round pick in Alex Leatherwood not play very well. He's going to have another year under his belt. Maybe they can bring somebody in that can help them add some depth to that. This is that type of pick. It's a depth pick. It's a fourth round type of guy for me. I went pick 126, and I went with Chris Paul. Yep, that's right. Chris Paul out of Tulsa. Again, he's kind of a developmental player. He's going to be the guy that's going to come in, probably play a few different positions on the offensive line. He had 10 starts at right tackle, but he can also play guard. He had 20 starts at guard, so you can move him as a backup on guys that get injured, bring him in, get him some experience. He's crafty. He has some unique technique, and he's best in pass protection, which obviously you want to keep Derek Carr upright so he can throw to Davante Adams. Obviously, he's raw. He's slow to the second level in the run game, so a Josh Jacobs might be impacted when a player like that has to come in on the field, and he has some weaknesses around his lateral quickness. But this is a guy who you can develop, hopefully just be a backup, fill in behind somebody. And again, you're talking fourth round picks, so not all of them come in and start right away. This is a guy that can play as a backup and hopefully develop into a good young player. I like the name Jamin Brown out of Louisville, who played with the Rams or was drafted by the Rams, played 6 seasons and had about 48 starts. Very similar build, very similar technique and skill set as a Chris Paul. And I'm not talking about the Phoenix Suns guard.
You already know I love that pick. You already know that I love that pick just because you had CP3. So that's what I just want to let that be known. I don't hate that pick, but I have them going a different way. And this is a player I think is going to be a sleeper pick throughout this draft. It's Tyler Smith, the offensive tackle from Tulsa. Now, this is a guy that I'm sure not many people have heard, and this is kind of what happens when we get deeper into the drafts, but this kid was phenomenal at Tulsa. Scouts are saying that this is one of the safer picks in the middle rounds, and that's huge to me, to be able to get a solid player in round 3 that can be an already ready player to step into your lineup. He led the nation in what PFF calls big-time blocks. Yes, I don't subscribe to PFF, but I found that stat. This is a guy who dominated at Tulsa. He only allowed 2 sacks last season and no sacks in 2020 on 355 pass blocks. This guy's one of the younger players of this draft. He can play guard. He can play tackle. He can play wherever you want. You can develop him. And like you said, it brought up with Alex Leatherwood, the development is there for a guy like Tyler Smith. And it's exactly what the Las Vegas Raiders need. They need to go after the offensive line. They need to make those picks. They need to protect Derek Carr and give themselves a good chance to make a run here in the AFC West.
I like it. If he lasts that long, I think he goes in the second round.
Really? Okay.
I think the talks around him are getting stronger and stronger because of his age, because of how young he is. Again, you mentioned being one of the youngest in the draft, being only 21 years old. That's huge, right? That's somebody that could be a cornerstone tackle if he develops right, or a guard, for a long time. You're talking 10 plus seasons. So I think he ends up going in the second round. He is a tone setter. He is an aggressive mauler. He loves to explode into contact. I really, really like the pick. if he lasts that long, the Raiders are getting a steal.
Yep.
The one worry, he did have a lot of penalties, but he's young, right?
That's what I saw. That's what I saw. It was like his biggest flaw, and I was like, okay, he's young. Hopefully that's something you can fix. That's coaching right there. You can coach that. So that's what coach. I mean, that's what everyone looks for. It's not common. It's not uncommon to hear that. That's what you can mold players into. So right. Tyler Smith, I like him a lot. The kid out of Tulsa. He can play tackle. He can play guard. He should be a Las Vegas Raider.
So my pick was done a little differently for a couple different reasons. This is a big, wide draft prospect and process, and I wanted to go a little different. I've had so many offensive linemen, and I got bored. I wanted to see something. I wanted to see some activity. I figured you guys would do me right and handle this. So I went on the defensive side of the ball for the Raiders. I took round 3, pick 86, and I got the linebacker JoJo Damon out of Nebraska. This guy pops off the film. I have thoroughly enjoyed watching him. I think I've done a little bit more research on him than I've done most guys in this whole process so far. He's a little older, so the maturity thing, being a defensive player and a guy who's probably going to be a signal caller for you at times, is a good thing for me. But you can scheme around him. He can play in the defensive back zone. He can play up on the line. He can play in the middle, and he's got great IQ. I'm hoping to see you playing here. If not, it's cool. I'll break it down for you guys. Another good thing I like is he actually has pretty good speed for his size, and he gets to the backfield as well as the guy I was talking about, Daxon Hill. I watched this man save 3 or 4 or 5 different plays coming off the weak side pursuit that if they got off to that edge, it was a guaranteed touchdown. And because of the way he pursues, he was able to stop it down. The play that I wanted to bring up, there was this play I want to say was Ohio State. I do not remember the team was. Not a big deal. Anyways, chases a guy on the pursuit, like I mentioned, from the weak side all the way to the sideline. Guy makes a beautiful catch. Waits till he secures it. He gets his hand in and around, drops the ball down to the ground, gets him out. His team starts celebrating. He's on the sideline with the tackle and coaching. Like the ball's still loose. Didn't go out of bounds. Go get that ball. He's one of those leadership type guys. And I think with Max Crosby in front of him and what they're working on in that back end with Abrams and things of that nature, I think he'd be a solid fit and would work right on day one, even in round 3 if he lasts that long. JoJo Damon out of Nebraska.
I'm gonna let AJ slide on this one.
Oh my goodness! No, tell me, give me your feels. Give me your feels. I like to, because as you know, I'm coming out with my.
I don't
know how everyone feels about everything.
I mean, maybe I'm off. I don't know. Maybe I haven't seen enough of them, but I am not a huge fan of maybe it's the size thing again. He's very undersized for the linebacker position, and I watch these kids in college, young men in college. And then I always think about the size of a player and how that's going to translate against like offensive linemen. I worry about that. I don't think he plays very well in the box. So when you talked about his ability to get sideline to sideline, I agree with you. I worry about him being able to line up in the linebacker position and take on that guard, come into the second level and fight that guard off to make tackles. And I think that's what's going to keep him from getting on the football field at the next level. Could you bring him down in nickel packages and tell him, hey, go run down some of these backs out of the backfield? Yeah, perhaps, because you did mention the fact that he does have a little bit of speed. I don't know. I think he's a really good zone cover linebacker.
Yeah, I'd say
he reminds me. Well. He reminds me of a Malcolm Smith, or even more recently, a Jabril Cox with LSU, was one of the better pass linebackers. But he also went really, really late in the draft because of those reasons why, not being able to get to ball carriers and fight off those offensive linemen. When you start talking about 3rd round, 4th round, 5th round guys, this is what we're talking about. We're splitting hairs, right? We're trying to find what's going to translate, what's not. Are we going to hit? Probably not, right? We're really unsure. These things, we don't know if they translate. I have him way down. Like I have him falling to the 6th round. Because of that. But don't get me wrong, I have seen things I've seen from anywhere from the late 3rd to the 6th on different coverages, right? So these are different people evaluating them. That's based on how I evaluate him. And I didn't watch a whole lot of, obviously of his games, but from the stuff that I have watched, I think the size bothers me again.
Yeah. Aaron had some hard feelings about Aaron had some hard feelings about the state of Nebraska. That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, it might
That's
be
what it
because
is.
of that.
That's what it is. But you mentioned the
USC,
fact
if you had
that
gone, you would have known this guy.
you mentioned that you haven't fallen all the way down to the 6th round. I want to remind everybody that draft week we are going to have Aaron's special 7-round mock draft that's going to be released all throughout draft week. So be tuned in and locked into our social medias for that. Let's move on to the Los Angeles.
AJ's argument might have moved him up.
Fantastic.
Move him to the 5th.
Fantastic. The Los Angeles Chargers is going to be the next team that we move on to. It's going to be the offensive. They need offensive tackle. They need a linebacker. They need a tight end. They've got the 17th pick in the 1st round. I don't believe that this lists their 3rd round pick here. Oh, no, it does not. No, it does. 17, 79, and so on and so forth. They do not have a 2nd round pick is what I was really. Oh, I'm an idiot. Math is hard. Chargers here. Aaron, you can kick things off here to hopefully save my stupidity.
I don't think you're stupid, but I don't think you're stupid by any means. Mine, I thought this was pretty easy, and this might go against everything I just argued, which sucks but I mean, there obviously is reasons, and I'm sure, you guys will agree with some of them, but I'm going linebacker here for the Chargers. We talked about the needs on defense. They've addressed the defensive tackle position. They've addressed the edge rushing position during free agency. I think here you go get a linebacker, and I think you get one of the best linebackers in the draft, perhaps the best. Who knows? There's, Devin Lloyd, but there's this guy, and it's Nakobi Dean from Georgia. Nakobi Dean, we have talked over and over about that Georgia defense and what they bring. And this is not only is he smaller than what I usually like, but this is a guy who's so versatile. He's a leader. He pops off the screen. He's really good in space. He's explosive. To me, the weakness of having that smaller frame, when you look at him, you say, okay, this is the guy that just has it. Can't explain it. Don't know why he's good. But when he steps on the football field, he makes a difference. His instincts are second to none, and his leadership ability, what he was able to do to help with that leadership in that Georgia locker room on the defensive side of the football, listening to the way the players talk about what he brings, you can't replicate that. And in the NFL, that guy that mans the middle, that guy that's on calling the shots on defense, calling the formations out, calling the plays, you need a guy like that. To me, this is going to be one of those undersized guys that fits in a scheme and just make things happen. And he's a good 4-3 weak side linebacker. And I think Nakobi Dean would fit well with the Chargers and what they're trying to build on that defensive side of the football.
You've been pumping my tires all night for my first 2 picks being good. This is a slam dunk pick here, right here. We talked before the show. We said that we're okay with picking the same person in the draft if we want to. This is a slam dunk. I'm not necessarily picking the same person because I think they can go another way, but this Nakobi Dean is one of the best defensive players in this draft. I remember covering the Florida-Georgia game with all of us, and I remember hearing you specifically, Aaron, say that this guy is could be the best defensive player in this upcoming draft because he is that damn good. I went the opposite way. I went on the offensive line side of things because one of the most important positions is the quarterback position. And how do you protect that? The offensive line. I think the Los Angeles Chargers, with their 1st round pick, need to go Kenyon Green, the offensive tackle from Texas A&M. This guy right here can do it all. Again, this is a theme for me. Offensive lineman that can do both guard, tackle. This guy played on the left side, right side all year long for Texas A&M. Hey, there's a running back in this draft, Isaiah Spiller. He's supposed to go really high. Well, one of the reasons why Isaiah Spiller did so well at Texas A&M is because of what Kenyon Green did at Texas A&M. He's an All-American. Scouts say this guy just gets the job done. He's great at adjusting. He's great at adapting. There's plays where I've seen Kenyon Green just take guys all the way downfield, just carry a block all the way. He's consistent. He's solid. He holds down the blocks. Get your protection for Justin Herbert, Los Angeles, and get you a Kenyon Green at 17. Oh,
you are on mute, sir.
He is on mute.
That is a minus.
Big time minus.
Big minus. Yeah, let me go for a while. We normally catch it right away. Y'all got me 7 words in. I love that pick. A lot of talk about Kenyon Green. I'm excited to see where he ends up falling. I also went with the lineman. I also went with a lineman who's not maybe as greatly known, but he's going to be. I went with Louisiana Lafayette's Max Mitchell. Max Mitchell. PFF has this guy rated as the 13th top tackle in this draft, yet he was the highest rated tackle in all of football last year. I think some of the cons that they have on this guy is that he played in low-level competition. But let's be honest, they went 13-1 in that low-level competition. In one of the biggest games against Texas last year, they gave him 47 pressures. He allowed one. Playing right tackle and left tackle against Texas. So against a Power 5, he showed up on the box. This guy only had 13 pressures and 430 pass blocking attempts. He's got great hands. He's got great balance, great technique, great flexibility. He understands what he needs to do as a pass blocker on either side. A little small, only coming at 300 on that tackle side. So he's going to need to butt up a couple weight, and he's going to need to get his physicality up. But other than that, this is one of those guys that I think may keep sliding up. And if you are getting him somewhere in the third round, you are going to be a very, 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 very happy person. So I went with Max Mitchell, Louisiana Lafayette, in the third round, pick 79.
I'm okay with that pick because I almost want to change my pick to just Nakobi Dean for the Los Angeles Chargers. Like that's the dunk pick for the Los Angeles Chargers. Let's cover the last team here in the AFC West. It's the Denver Broncos. They need a linebacker, a corner, an offensive lineman. Their first pick comes at pick 64 after acquiring Russell Wilson. They pick 64, 75, 96, so on and so forth. Aaron, please start us off here for the Denver Broncos.
You always catch me off guard. To me, for the Denver Broncos, there's so many things I still think they need, but we love what those offensive weapons are. We love the Russell Wilson edition. We know they got Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy. So I wanted to go on the other side. They went defensive back last year early, obviously getting Patrick Surtain. I think this year they're going to focus again on that back end. For me, it's in the second round, and it's Alabama once again, and it's Mr. Josh Jobe. That's right. Josh Jobe. This guy is rangy. He can play in multiple schemes. I really like what he brings to the table. You're talking about a guy who's physical. He has good body control. He's very handsy with receivers. He likes to get in people's faces. He has great recovery speed, and he's aggressive. If you're trying to play him against these twitchier wide receivers, they might get him. Don't put him on Tyreek Hill, guys like that, because sometimes he gets really aggressive. He bites on first moves, and he can be overly aggressive. But I really like what he brings to the table. When you play in an Alabama defense, obviously you have a head coach that preaches defense, that knows how to translate to the NFL. 2 interceptions last year, 4 pass breakups. Again, I think he can be a guy, can come in and be a solid contributor. He's a boundary guy. You're not going to bring him in on the slot. He's going to get beat. Press cover or press man cover one, stuff like that. Again, my player comp, I'll give you my player comp. PJ Williams for the Saints, who's, he's struggled to be an elite guy, but he's been on the Saints for a while. He plays. He's a solid contributor. He started 31 games for them out of 78 he's played. That's the kind of guy I think you're going to get with Josh Jobe, and I think you can get that in the second round.
I think you're just secretly an Alabama fan is what it's coming down to. That's the second Alabama player you've picked for the AFC West. So I'll go with that. My guy comes to the second round at pick 64. It's Leo Chanel, the linebacker out of Wisconsin. This guy is like, I hear everyone saying that it's a sleeper pick, but at what point do sleeper picks not become a sleeper pick if everyone's talking about him? That's what Leo Chanel is doing from Wisconsin. He's an athletically gifted linebacker. He's not great at covering, but he can get off blocks great. He's got lots of potential. He has the 3rd most pressures from the linebacker position in the Big Ten since 2020. Again, he's the sleeper darling of everybody. He's athletically gifted. I don't want to say the Micah Parsons comment because I don't want to compare every athletic linebacker to Micah Parsons, but he's got that ability just to be quick off the edge. He's able to sack the quarterback. He's able to get there, be a run stopper. Coverage, not so great. You're picking him in the second round, third round type of guy right there. Denver desperately needs linebackers. Go get you a Leo Chanel out of Wisconsin.
Like the defensive prowess from both of you guys, as I told you earlier, I was on that offensive line kick, so that's how we're going to finish out here. And who are we talking about? Denver did great by grabbing Russell Wilson, getting a quarterback finally. But what was Russell Wilson's biggest deal in Seattle? There was no offensive line. And I think that they want to address that. I didn't do it right up front. I didn't get the first thing, but coming in on the back end of the third round, pick 96, I'm going with Ed Ingram out of LSU. Now, Ed Ingram, the guard, he's a big, powerful guy. They used to call him Big Nasty for things like that. Just goes and loves to put his hands on people and get really physical. Now, the reason that I have him in the third round is because in 2021, he was a little inconsistent. He took a lot of plays off here and there, and I'm starting to just realize a lot of the players that were on this 2021 team, and I was kind of checked out. I don't know if it was because of Coach Ed O. I don't know if it's because so many of them were on that 2019 record-breaking team, and now they come down here to 2021, and nobody's really got it. There's not as much talent, so they took a lot of plays off, and a lot of players were questioned about the way they finished it out. But when you get him in there, I do believe that Ed Ingram has the ability, the power, the strength to not be a day one starter, but be a great developmental project and fit in on one of those lines, especially those lines that end up doing all that patchwork where they have to bring in guys just because of the injuries. He's not going to hurt you as much as he'll help you, but he's not going to be a solid all-around, ready-to-go day one type guy. But once you get him there, you'll be very happy with Ed Ingram from LSU.
There you go.
I like that one, AJ.
Yeah,
but I always got to give my one concern we never know about.
He's small.
There were some off the field concerns with him.
Yep.
There was a sexual assault allegation back in 2019. You never know how that's going to affect somebody's draft stock. So just kind of keep an eye out for that. But if he continues to fall, like you said, third, fourth, fifth round, you can get a player that could end up, being a contributor.
Yeah.
And that's what we're bringing here to you guys, the fans at the Sac City podcast. We are giving you deep coverage, okay? We're going deep. First round, second round, third round, fourth round, fifth round, sixth round, seventh. Shit, we could get a seventh round pick in here. I want to see one of you guys. That's the next challenge. Give me a seventh round pick for one of these remaining teams that we have to cover,
Wednesday's
okay?
going to be all seventh rounders.
There it is. All right. That does it for our AFC West draft coverage. We are going to be covering the NFC North on Wednesday. The Packers, Vikings, Bears, and Lions live at 8 p.m. Eastern time right here on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Belly Up Sports TV. For Aaron the Mukesiah Mukes and for your boy AJ Johnson, I am me. We will see you Wednesday.
Peace out.
Shut up.
We know we were a much better team than we came up and represented ourselves.